Hello there. This is the story of the elves and the shoemaker, and I thought this was a story that everyone knew, and then on the retreat I discovered that was not the case, and so I've been asked to share this with you this morning. Once upon a time there was a shoemaker, and he'd fallen upon hard times. And as each week went by, it became increasingly aware that he had less food in the house. He was earning less money from his shop, and finally he reached the day where he used up the last scraps of the food in his cupboard, and he was feeling very sad, and he went to the back of the shop to look at his stores of leather, and he discovered he had enough leather to make one pair of shoes. Because he hadn't eaten that day, he was feeling very weak and tired. So with the last of his strength, he cut out the leather to make one pair of shoes, and he left it on his workbench, and he crawled up to his bed and fell fast asleep. During the night, some multidimensional space-time travelers arrived, and they have a very particular appearance. They are very slim, they are known to be elusive, and they move quickly, and they have this most remarkable energy about them. And their appearance we would describe today as elfin, and that's why people call them elves. So unbeknownst to this shoemaker, the elves slipped through a crack in the dimensions into his shop. They saw the leather there, and quick as a wink they pulled out needles which they kept in their clothing, and they set to work, and within no time at all they had crafted the most beautiful pair of shoes from the remaining piece of leather. And when their job was done, they slipped out again, back into the dimensional void from which they had emerged. The following morning the shoemaker woke up and lay in bed feeling very despondent, for he knew he was exhausted beyond belief, and he knew he had to make the one pair of shoes from the leather pieces that he'd found yesterday evening. And with a heavy heart he goes into his workshop, and to his utter amazement he discovers the most beautiful pair of shoes lying on his workbench. He scratches his head. He can't possibly understand how this could have happened. It makes no sense. He knows what state the leather was in last night. Well, when you have very little, you are very grateful. So with great gratitude, he picked the shoes up and examined them very closely and realized they were of the finest workmanship. And so he opened up his shop, although it was quite early, when he put them out in the window, and he waited. And he waited. And in the fullness of the time, someone arrived, and it was a young woman, and she saw the shoes and she was absolutely delighted. And she looked at her husband and said, "That's a pair of shoes for me. That's what I've been looking for." And in they walked to the shop, and within a very short time indeed, the husband has paid for the shoes for his beloved wife, and they both walk out of the shop feeling so happy. And this happiness starts to infect the shoemaker, and he realizes that she paid him more than he was actually expecting. And indeed, he is so happy he realized he had enough money to be able to go out and buy enough leather to make 2 pairs of shoes that evening. And if he budgeted very carefully and did some good bargaining, he had just enough money to be able to buy a portion of oats for porridge for his evening meal. And this is exactly what happened. One small bowl of porridge is not much to sustain a man, and so by the time he'd cut the leather out for the 2 pairs of shoes, he was utterly exhausted and went to bed very early that evening. In fact, it wasn't even fully dark. Well, you can imagine exactly what happened, because this, of course, is what we call a fairy tale. The elves slipped in through the dimensional void into the shoemaker's workshop, and they were thrilled because there was double the amount of leather, which means that they could make 2 pairs of shoes. And this they did with alacrity, and within such a short time the shoes were sitting resplendent on the shoemaker's workbench, and away they slipped. The shoemaker woke up the following morning feeling hungry, but he felt better because he knew he had 2 lots of leather cut out ready to make the shoes. And he felt like, although he was still really tired, he thought he might be able to manage it this morning. And of course he walked downstairs and he saw the 2 pairs of shoes glistening on his workbench. When he fell down in thanks and gratitude, he prayed to his God and thanked his God for deliverance. And he opened up his shop, even though it was very early. He put the 2 pairs of shoes out in the window, and he sat and he waited. And this morning he didn't have to wait long at all, because actually there were 2 lovely young women with their husbands, and they were standing outside looking at the 2 pairs of shoes. And he instantly realized that they didn't want the same pair. They wanted, one couple wanted 1 pair, the other couple wanted the other pair. And of course they'd heard about these shoes from their mutual friend who'd shown them hers that she was so happy with from yesterday. And so in they went. Business was swiftly concluded. These people were not short of money, and they were happy to put an extra gleam in the shoemaker's eye by giving above and beyond what he was asking for. Well, you can see where this went, can't you? And as each day went by, the shoemaker was able to afford to buy more leather. More elves arrived through the dimensional void at night, and finally he began to earn enough money to feed himself properly and to buy the leather that he needed for his livelihood. And this continued until the shoemaker reached a point that he was well off enough to be able to afford to pay an apprentice to teach him his trade. And the moment he took on the apprentice was the last that the elves entered through that dimensional void to help out the shoemaker, because they knew their job was done. And they were so happy to have changed the trajectory of his life. And they knew that that apprentice would go on to learn how to make shoes in the finest possible fashion, because of course the shoemaker, being a shoemaker, had learnt a lot from very closely and carefully examining the workmanship on the shoes that had been made by the elves. So this is the thing about elves. They are swift, they are elusive, They go where they are needed, and they are very happy to help. And that is a story of the elves and the shoemaker. So I thank all of the elves that step in at different times to help people in their lives. In Ireland they're called the little people. I've been taken to a mound in Dublin city where those who know are aware this is one of the places where the elves come. There is a great understanding of the elves in Ireland. In England people look at you a bit funny, like what are you talking about, but over there they know. So thank you very much for listening to the story of the elves and the shoemaker.